Forsaken is a game that has many different features, but there's still a lot of notable things that the game seems to be lacking in. In today's video, I want to go over 10 different things that I personally think could improve Forsaken, whether it's a quality of life update or balancing. Also, before we get started, you should subscribe. I'm on my way to 10k, and every last one counts. But enough said, let's get right into the video. Have you ever been in a match playing as a support and suddenly you get bombarded by someone for quote-unquote not helping the team, when in reality you're most likely just on cooldown? Well, the answer is most likely yes if you've tried maxing any of the supports in the game, most notably Dusakar or Elliot. And I personally think that there's actually a pretty easy way to fix this. That is allowing for other survivors to see your cooldown when they, let's for say, request aid from you. This would leave a lot less room for confusion and avoid a lot of possible arguing that can typically follow these types of interactions. It's a very small change, but it would go a pretty long way in bettering the teamwork aspect of the game, and just overall it'd be a nice little quality of life addition to the game. Perhaps just make a little message pop up that says the player's on cooldown and displays how many seconds they have left before they come off a cooldown. Again, it's a small thing, but definitely goes a long way, and I'm sure no one would really complain about this. This is something that gets hinted at every now and then, and was even sort of added to the main game, but it was honestly kinda sloppy. In Forsaken, we got matchmaking, which is supposed to put you in lobbies with people who have similar stats to you, making the game a little more fair for everyone across the board. However, this system has been proven to fail a lot, and if I'm correct, was even removed at some point. Instead of matchmaking, we could just get official pro servers that have some kind of stat requirement to enter and offer better rewards for playing in. This would promote more competitive gameplay, but it also wouldn't force it down people's throats. And it would also help deal with the imbalance of pro players and fresh meat ending up in the same lobbies. In current Forsaken, we only have one type of objective, which is generators. And while they work, they aren't really that fun and get very boring / repetitive. We could instead get different types of objectives in some of the maps, similar to how Forsaken was in its early days, but maybe they could be more fleshed out to make them more enjoyable. It would be cool if you could collect items and have to transport them around the map. Or maybe add different types of puzzles, like memory puzzles where you have to remember a pattern and then repeat it. Really, the possibilities for new puzzles are endless, and it would just be overall refreshing to see new ones in the game, as again, generator puzzles are incredibly repetitive. This will be one of the only major balancing things that I decide to add to this video, but the fact that maps can drastically change the outcome of matches for certain killers is kinda sad. Killers like John Doe, 1X, Sixer, and even Nose can be hit hard by map selection. Hell, even Noli on a bad map can be disadvantaged slightly. The only two killers who I've never really noticed the map balancing affecting much are Slasher and Cool Kid, mainly because their anti-loop is much more universal than the other killers who can be countered by specific circumstances. I'm so tired right now. For example, John Doe heavily relies on map control to win, so if you get a map with a lot of open, untrappable areas or dead zones, you're forced to play him as a sniper over a trapper, which obviously that's not what he's intended to be played as. 1X can basically just get murdered by elevation since he can't really look up for the life of him. we all know what's wrong with Sixer. Fucking fatty. Nas's kit, although reliable at times, can easily become just as unreliable against the right survivor at the right loop. Also, Noli just can't really beat fat walls. It's just the Noli effect. These things can negate the killer's ability to prevent looping, and therefore hurting their chances of winning, for something they can't even control. The simple solution is to just rework certain portions of maps and make them slightly more killer-friendly. And as for killers like Sixer, I just think they need a full rework of some kind. Keep the idea of the kit, but execute it better with a regular-sized collision hitbox. Again, look at this fatty. Anyways, moving on. I'm not someone who cares all too much about skins, but the quality jumps between some of them are insane. Skins like Pursuer, Aberrant John Doe, and even Diva 1X get a lot of attention. Also, I'm only using Diva 1X as an example because they removed my GOAT, JX1DX1. Of course, I understand why though. Anyways, compare these skins to like 80% of the other skins in the skin shop, and you get to see just how painful the quality shift is. And I know some people will argue that they're just cosmetics, but skins make up over half of this game at this point. Every major update, we somehow managed to get like 50 to 150 skins. I'm not even making this shit up either. We got so many skins in the Halloween update and the Noli update that like it genuinely set me back by over 100,000 player points. I really wouldn't care about this all too much if it wasn't for the fact that we have so much time to put all this effort into a skin that is a dev exclusive. Seriously, what were we doing with this skin? The fact that this thing was even a thing still rubs me the wrong way. This one's for all of the mobile players, and even some of us Xbox players. Forsaken needs to have better support for devices that aren't PC. From what I've been told, there are only like 2 killers even worth trying to play on phone due to how bad the support is at times. And it shows a lot. Every player I've seen who played on phone tells me the same thing. If I was on PC, I would have done better. Slasher is probably the only device-friendly killer in the game. The rest require complex aiming and even combos at times that mobile players just can't achieve. And controller players, or in my case, Xbox players, don't really have it as bad as mobile players, but doing generators is hellish in and of itself. And sure, things like entanglement before the 1X rework were basically just a joke at most of the time. The trade-off is it's harder to land literally anything with a hitbox. Also, for some reason, I couldn't tell you why, but whenever you're on Xbox and you're doing the Nosferatu minigame, the D-pad will force your little cursor to pop up, which just soft locks you unless you hover over some of the UI with the cursor so it goes away. Like, there's been times where this genuinely killed me, and there's been times where it's caused me to lose as well. Now, fixing the device issue would be basically impossible since, let's just face it, keyboard play is just much more viable for complex controls and aiming. But adding some form of support to these devices would make them a little more enjoyable to play on. Not everybody can just swap to keyboard and mouse. In my case, I just kind of grew up with the controller, so getting used to keyboard gameplay is basically impossible for me. Or, not really impossible, but it would probably take me a year or two to be able to use keyboard comfortably and actually still have my skill level in Forsaken. I'm not doing all that. But as for others, some people are literally just restricted to a phone, and it would be nice to see better support for those people. There are an ungodly amount of skins in this game, as I said earlier, that have very awesome designs and soundtracks, but lack one major thing, that being a custom LMS. Now, I know it would be hard to give almost every skin an LMS, obviously, but there's just so many fan-made LMSs out there for skins that it's hard to find a reason why certain skins just don't have an LMS. Like, the only issues I could see coming out of this is the game feeling more crowded, but I honestly already think we're past that point with how many skins and all the other random shit that's already in the game. I think just implementing a system similar to Gash Harpoon's LMS to avoid teaming would be the best way to go about it. And who's gonna complain with, most of the time the majority fan-made LMSs ending up in the game? I mean, like, I don't think I've actually found a fan-made LMS that I genuinely didn't like. Most of them are really good, and they fit the theme pretty well. I'm like, maybe there's something I'm missing, but I just can't find something to complain about here, or to go against adding more custom LMSs to the game. I'm sure this one's a fan favorite, but game modes would add a nice mix-up to every couple of matches or so, making the game feel more lively and enjoyable, especially if you're on a longer grinding session. Things like One Bounce or Double Trouble, although being chaotic, would definitely make the game feel a lot more fun at times, and less like a chore. Maybe add some kind of voting system every 5 to 10 matches, where the players can choose if they want to have a special game mode or special match, or they can just veto the option and have a regular match. There are all kinds of ways this could be done as well. You don't have to do it like that. But I still do think adding game modes just in general would be a really cool idea. Hell, maybe even throw things in there like killer battles, or even an infection style game mode. Honestly, the possibilities can be pretty endless at times. VIP is greatly lacking in really any rewards for owning it. You get 25% more XP, a special title for owning it, a few skins and emotes, and access to a couple of dev-exclusive things in private servers. That's it. Now, I don't mean to be harsh to VIP or anything, but most people literally only own this for the extra XP bonus. That's kind of all it does. It'd be nice to see it maybe discount things in the shop, or give bonus cash for everything you do, like completing objectives, using your abilities, and winning, of course. It's obviously not easy giving VIP more perks, since you don't want to make the game pay to win, but minor things like that I'm honestly shocked we don't already have. Also, a little side note here, we don't even get access to all of the dev content with VIP and private servers. And it's not the biggest issue out there, but it's still kind of weird that they gatekeep dev content from us from the past that's supposed to grant access to it. Again, I'm not really complaining too much about that, but I just don't see a reason against allowing us to have full access to the dev roster with VIP, or at least almost full access. The final thing I can think of that we should get in Forsaken, or at least the final thing that makes my list, is just more variety in killer movesets. I mean, like, we probably all saw this one coming, but the past 3 killers or so have just been carbon copies of Cool Kid's Walk Speed Override and Corrupt Nature. Sixer, Nosfer, and Noli all have a dash-styled ability and a projectile. I'm not really one to care about this too much, but a lot of other people who play the game do, and personally, I also think it's kind of lazy, and it would make other killers feel so much more unique to play if they had, for say, an actual different moveset than the typical dash and projectile. The 1x rework is a pretty good example of what I'm saying, I guess. It's a pretty good rework, and definitely a step up from what 1x was, considering it both made him a consistent killer in matches, no longer being reliant on his projectiles. I mean, like, obviously landing your projectiles will give you an even bigger edge, but you don't need it necessarily. You can still win due to him having some decent anti-loop, his minions being slightly stronger, and, well, just in general, 1x is a little stronger now, which has made him a lot more fun to play compared to a lot of other killers. It would be nice if the Cool Kid copies could just get some kind of similar rework, or at least stop copying the same 2 moves for any more upcoming becoming killers. Please. Well, that is 10 things that I think should be in Forsaken. Let me know down below if you agree, and also feel free to share some of your additions to the game you might have in mind. Also, before I end off the video, good honorable mention that I didn't include, but honestly, it could have been the #1 thing that should be in the damn game, are the daily milestone. Anyways, with all said and done, this has been Wendigo, and I'm going to sleep now.